The one thing I would guarantee is I guarantee there are important key documents on both sides. I guarantee that. The internal communications are going to be fascinating on both sides.
100%.
And
I can't wait.
yeah, and there
Would
could
love
be
to.
something that is a total smoking gun. You'd eventually get the other side's documents, and it's like, holy cow, this is in there? Where the other people say the craziest things on internal emails, not thinking that it
Right.
has to be preserved, and one day it could be part of a lawsuit, and the other side gets it. And they just admitted what we've always been arguing.
If you saw the St. Louis Shock playing at MLP last weekend, you probably noticed those sleek new uniforms they're wearing. That's from a company called Move, and they're the official uniform partner of the Shock and the sponsor of today's video. Move is a performance apparel brand started by fashion industry vets from Ralph Lauren and Levi's, so they're bringing some legit design cred to the pickleball world. That black and blue jersey you saw the Shock wearing is from their latest line. It has a super lightweight, moisture-wicking fabric and bonded seams, which basically means you're getting no chafing while you're playing on the court. And you look pretty good doing it. So if you're looking to step up your pickleball fit this summer, then head to movebrand.com and use code THEDINK to get 20% off site-wide.
Dude, Grayson Goldin, welcome back to the pod. We had you on while we were at Nationals last year, but you just won the APP Tour Cincinnati, and that's actually your first gold medal on the APP Tour since APP Cincinnati of last year, right? So
That's right.
It's been a year. How does it feel?
I mean, it feels amazing. It's been grinding all year, like, facing so much adversity. Every tour. I mean, I think I lost like 6 or 7 finals in a row, like coming in second. I racked up the silver medals in singles and then a couple bronzes. So it was a tough year. So, I mean, it was amazing to just get that monkey off my back and take that title in Cincinnati. Is a great feeling. I've just been putting in so much work, you know what I mean? Full time, and it's just great to just get that win again. It's amazing.
For sure, dude. You got pretty emotional in the interview after the win. Like, what is that? What is it about this win that like means so much to you?
I think just getting over that hump, like I said, like I've been in the final so many times, playing on that stage so many times, and then just not necessarily performing, up to my standards, the amount of work that I put in. And, I was just able to find it yesterday. And it just really like was a relief, and just felt like, all this hard work that I'm putting in is finally showing. I felt like it hasn't really shown through necessarily in these last couple of months, which I know there's a lag effect, which is fine. But, I just want to be able to get out there and perform and kind of show this world, what I'm made of. And it's just great. Like, I mean, and also just fighting the adversity as well, just the
Yeah.
ups and downs, like the stress. I'm a free agent. I have no sponsors right now. And I feel like, that might be partially due to coming in second all the time. So like that's been on my mind is like, you got to be a winner. Like you have to be a champion. Like no one wants to sponsor number 2. So it's kind of just like, I want to be first. I believe that I'm one of the best singles players in the world. And so just getting that win just really, really meant a lot to me. And, I mean, a lot of people don't see the behind the scenes of the sport. It's a lot.
Yeah, dude. I've been fortunate to kind of like talk with you through some of this whole process. And so when I saw you tweeted about a week ago, this
Yeah.
picture of yourself said no contract, no guarantees, just results. I was like, shit, dude, that hits hard. I retweeted it. I was like, man, I don't know why. This got me fired up. This guy is you are honestly what I feel like pickleball should be in a way. Like you're just going betting on yourself, no contract and nothing guaranteed, and it's so awesome that it paid off within a week of that post, right?
Yeah, it's vindicating for sure.
I mean, take me through it. Like it's a struggle. Why do you feel like, you don't have a paddle deal? And like what's your, if you're up for chatting about it, like what's your status with where you want to play? Because now we've
Yeah.
got APP, PPA Challenger, PPA, MLP. Like what does Grayson want? What do you when you are, you know, when you're getting these results, what's the goal?
I mean, basically, I think the UPA licensing agreement had a large impact on paddle deals. You know, before there was the MLP PPA merger, now there was the tariff stuff. You know, dealing with supply chain issues, and then obviously just getting the paddles on the ground in the States. You know, that's impacting paddle companies in a large way. Also, I think, you know, I'm an American player. So, you know, paddle brands don't necessarily, and I'm relatively new, right? I mean, I think I've been a year and a half in the sport now, full time. So, you know, I don't know how well these brands know me yet. So I'm kind of just taking it upon myself to just really build that personal brand. I just started a YouTube channel. I just got my banner done, my profile picture, description, all that good stuff. I did
Yeah,
a
what's
lot
the
of.
channel? What's the channel
It's just
called?
at Grayson Goldin.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I took a lot of raw footage from the last tournament, Cincinnati, just kind of behind the scenes stuff. And I don't know, I haven't really defined a series yet, but I mean, like Road to Number One, I think would be sick to see. Just that character development, that progression through, you know, the grind of the sport. You know, with no guarantees, right? I'm a new player and I have to figure out a way to get through. You know, I don't have a contract. I'm ranked 24 in the world, I guess, right now in men's singles on the PPA. But, you know, because of the rules, I can't play qualifying because I'm inside the top 50. And then I can't play main draw because I'm not signed. So essentially, I can't play PPAs right now. So, you know, I'm just looking to play, um, you know, the highest level that I can and win. And, you know, I'm just trying to do that. And hopefully, you know, it'll all work out. I know there are growing pains with a newer sport like this. You know, I love playing PPA events when I could, and you know, I hope to play many more in the future. You know, but it doesn't really necessarily seem like anything is in my control right now, and so the only thing that I can control is my output. You know, my attitude and effort, and you know, my day in day out grind. And I love it. I love working hard. So you know, I understand that this sport needs entertainers, you know, main characters, the people that'll make people go ooh and ah, and then also provide value to brands, right? It's ROI at the end of the day, and I get that. So, you know, I think that these growing pains are honestly helping me out because it's making me do a lot of self reflection on, you know, what does Grayson Golden need to build in order to be valuable to this industry. You know, not just showing my talent on the court. So, you know,
Do
I'm
you
really
think
working on.
this is actually like making you a better player? Like no contracts, no guarantees because you really more than anything like eat what you kill.
100%. I mean, yeah, I'm like surviving on prize money right now. Obviously, I have, you know, money that I can spend in order to do this, but essentially, you know, I don't have any income coming in right now from pickleball except
Wait,
for
wait.
prize money.
Nothing from the Bitcoin shirt that you brought back?
No, and unfortunately, that was just a 1 year deal that I had with Bitcoin Ben. It was a crypto club in Sarasota that I cold called and just walked in, kind of told him my story, and he helps me out with a small portion of the budget for last year. But yeah, right now it's I have an insole deal, and that's pretty much the only thing that's coming in right now. So it is completely eat what you kill, or eat what you win, I guess you could call it. You know, but I believe in my ability, and you know, I believe in where the sport's going the next 5 to 10 years. So I'm willing to kind of bet on myself, and I think I will provide a lot of value to these brands, and I think I'm gonna be extremely marketable. I just need to do my best to make that known and to just show Grayson Golden to the world in a positive light. So I
For
think there's a
sure.
lot of negativity going around in the space right now, and I just kind of want to be a positive light and just be a good influence, a good mentor to the younger generation. And yeah,
For sure. Well, you are like a human highlight reel, I would say. Like you're definitely one of, if not the most athletic players. I'm watching one of your Instagram reels right now where it looks like you're like 4 feet vertical up in the air to hit an overhead. Like
yeah,
I think you're from an athleticism standpoint, like one of the biggest highlight reels. Obviously, you had that one video with Shelby Bates where where you're playing mixed doubles together and like you were all over the court, ended up like running her over, grabbing
yeah,
her, and I think you ended
yeah,
up winning the point on that one too. But an
yes.
absolute human highlight reel. But one of the things that I wanted to get your perspective on because we had Anderson Scarpa on as well, but you know we've got APP Breakthrough Series, PPA Challenger Series, APP, and PPA. I'm curious where, you've played some PPAs, you can't anymore based on their format, and you're playing the APPs. How do you feel like the level between APP, PPA, and PPA Challenger sort of compares?
I don't know. It's funny. I saw Anna Bright's tweet the other day. I was like, is this real? Like, I don't know if they're engagement farming. You know what I mean? Like on Twitter.
Yeah. No, I feel like
Um,
she's not an engagement farmer. Like I feel like she just actually likes to interact with
yeah.
people online, and I do think it is actually just like a Christian engagement farmer. I think
100%. Christian's a huge troll. I love it. He's funny.
Christian's engagement farming. I think, but I think
Yes.
Anna, like when me and Anna like ask questions, like I kind of genuinely want to know. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna defend her a
Yeah.
little bit there.
All right, good. Yeah. I mean, I haven't had much time with Anna. I mean, I think I spent like 5 minutes with her at the what was it? The Beer City Open. She's like, "We're boys, right, Grayson?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" Like, so no, I think she's cool. But yeah, I saw that tweet and I was just like, I'm not gonna get into this. I mean, I feel like right now, I don't want to get into any of the politics. I just want to do my best to just show what I can bring to the space in a positive light. But as far as the PBA Challenger level, APP, PPA, I can just only speak from my experience. Um, APP is deep. I mean, it's really deep. Qualies is deep, and I mean, it is gritty. These guys, like, if you're a gamer, you'll understand this term. I call it's sweaty out there. Like these guys are
Yeah.
sweats because everyone has no
They're in the
contract,
same
no guarantees.
they're in the
Yeah, and
same boat as you. Yeah, yeah.
they freaking want it. It is gritty. So, I mean, that's an element that you have to factor into, like depth and talent, right? But I haven't played any PPA challengers. I always said I felt like APP quality sometimes was stronger than PPA qualities for whatever reason. I don't know why,
PPA
but
qualies allow more people into them, right? The draws are slightly bigger. APP I could be wrong
yeah,
on that, but
I
I feel like I've seen PPA quality teams that like might be 4-5s, like
yeah. I mean, I've had some like 11-0, 11-0 wins in a PPA qualies before, which I was like, oh wow, like I didn't know, that was gonna happen last year when I was playing all qualies, both tours.
then
Um,
again, like the people who come through qualies and singles at PPA are sick. Like yeah, I'm thinking of like you, Naveen Beasley, like some of those type of players. I'm missing a million of them. Like if you qualify in a PPA, like you're a sick singles player. So like
yeah.
while there are some like bad players at the bottom, maybe like I feel like the people who do make it through that draw are like
Oh,
legit players.
100%. I mean, men's singles is, I feel like, just deep all around.
100, yeah, especially because like it's so variable too, right? Even if you
Tennis player can come in and compete like at a high level. So,
Mhm.
there's a lower barrier to entry to singles, I'd say, as far as being raw. But yeah, I mean, it's tough to really say like what's deeper. Like obviously, I think the PPA has uh is a little bit more top heavy, but then like if you look at it, the APP is extremely top heavy too. I mean, Will like triple crowned at the last one and freaking beat me in the finals. I can't believe I gave that one to him. That one burns, but I'm proud of him. Like good job. But I wish that there was like one tour, one place where we could all just compete, and then we wouldn't be leaving this up to wondering. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we can't
Then I
really.
would have nothing to talk about then. No. We need this.
I
I
know.
would have
Yeah,
nothing to talk about.
that's true. That's
So
true.
going into Sunday, when you are playing Armaan Bhatia, who upset Chris Hayworth, how does that change things? Because I feel like you're playing against, when you're playing against Will, you're probably expecting to win. And not to say that you're not expecting to win all of the time, but the pressure is shifted to you. You're going to be seen as the favorite in that one. When you're playing against Chris Hayworth, you're the underdog. When you're playing
Yeah.
against Armin Bhatia again, you're the favorite. Like, how does
Uh-huh.
that sort of pressure? How does that feel as a going into a Sunday?
I mean, honestly, I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, all right, let's go. Like, this is my tournament. I'm feeling good. I just played him last week in the quarterfinals of the Minto US Open in Naples. I beat him, I think it was like 11-8 in the third. So I was familiar with his game. I watch a lot of pickleball film. So I knew his playing style, his game style. Um, and honestly, like I've said this before, if I'm playing my game at a high level. I feel like, I'm definitely one of the best singles players in the world. So I just went into it, regulated my emotions, didn't let the moment get the best of me. Maybe I did that at the beginning. He got the first set on me, or first game, sorry. And yeah, just knew that if I had to go out and play my game, I just did a normal day, walked to a coffee shop in the morning, got there like 2.5 hours before, did a long warm up. I think I was hitting for like an hour and a half before. So I was pretty warm going into the match. And then, yeah, just enjoyed the moment, right? I'm constantly saying like pressure is a privilege, right? I could be at a desk right now, or I could be working some job, but I'm in front of however many hundred people right now competing in the finals of a pro pickleball tournament. And that's what I just kept repeating to myself, and just to enjoy the moment, just to hit the highlight reel shots, to be able to make the crowd go ooh and ah. That's kind of what I did. I didn't really focus on, like, oh, I'm the favorite here.
Mm-hmm.
Because he beat Chris Hayworth, so it's like
Right.
he's the favorite, right? You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I didn't really think about it that much. I was actually staying with him. So I was staying with
Oh,
him,
no way.
Harsh, and Shelby. We were sharing an Airbnb. So I mean, the like 2 days I was like talking so much trash to him. Like he and I were just going back and forth. I was like, it was just so funny. He was like, oh yeah, this is rally scoring. I was like, it doesn't matter which scoring. Like I'll beat you either way. And he's like, he's so funny. Like he's such a good sport. Definitely a friend for life. I love him. He's so funny. He's really confident in his ability. He knows who he is. We can banter with each other. It's not personal. So honestly, it was just a great tournament all around, and it was really fun.
Yeah, dude. Well, congratulations. What's the next APP tournament on the schedule?
The next one is the New York Open. So actually, right now I'm here with Hannah, in Atlanta. So I'm just gonna support, get some practice in, and then we're actually gonna go to Canada and then fly to New York next week, where I'm playing, all the events. So.
Interesting. Okay, gotcha. Well, sweet. If you are a paddle company or anybody that wants to sponsor Grayson Goldin, I would highly recommend it. He is one of the most. He's going to get you a lot of views. Only getting better. So, yeah, it's a wonder to me that you are still in the no contract, no guarantees situation. But I'd say if you keep winning, winning solves all, and people will come flocking.
Thank you, Zane. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, dude. Best of luck. I really enjoy following this journey just because I've got to see a little bit of the behind the scenes and chat with you, and it is like, I don't know, it's inspiring. It brings me back to when I was playing in that way, right? When I was sort of getting my start, no contract, no guarantees. Like it was I wouldn't say a better time, but a simpler time. And I think the highs and the lows were so amplified. Like the
That's what I was just gonna
highs
say.
of that win where you make several $1,000 is so much more like satisfying. And the lows of, damn, I lost so much money going to this tournament. It can be like devastating, right? Like,
Oh yeah. No, but the ups and downs make you appreciate everything even more, right? And then like what defines the experience, the end result or the journey, right? And I'm in the journey phase right now. So
mhm.
I'm doing my best to just like live in the present, control what I can control, and just have fun doing it, which I am. So, that's all I can do.
Perfect. Well, dude, thanks for coming on. Best of luck, and we'll see you over here in Atlanta.
All right. Thanks, Zane. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, bro.
All right. Take care.
Scarpa, Anderson Scarpa, welcome to the podcast. Congratulations, PPA Challenger Triple Crown last weekend in Maine. How's it feel?
Thanks, man. Feels good. Glad to just get match reps and practice heading into Atlanta. So felt good to get the it felt good to get the triple crown. That was the goal going in. So yeah,
Yeah. So have you played a PPA Challenger event before?
that was the first one.
That was the first one. So you got 500 points in each division. Am I right?
I'm actually not sure. Someone told me 125 points per division, but I could be wrong on that. I didn't really look. To be honest.
Actually, I think thinking about it, I'm super wrong because a slam is 2,000, a cup I think is 1,000, and then there's two divisions lower than that. So I think the lowest PPA might be a 500. But either way, it's good points, and I've been really curious. Like, How was your experience at a PPA Challenger event? Can you like tell me about that a little bit?
It kind of reminded me of like the old money balls we all used to play a lot of. Like, it was fairly low key, but it was well run. The staff there was really friendly and helpful. It was a good, decent level. There were some lower level players there for sure, but the top players that were there were, I would say, like kind of the guys you'd see final round of qualifying or maybe qualifying for a main draw of a PPA. So it was good practice.
Yeah, one of the Walker sisters also won a triple crown on the women's side as well, right? So your partner.
Yeah, Angie Walker won the Triple Crown as well, and we're actually playing Atlanta together this weekend or this week, so it was kind of good timing for that.
Yeah, interesting. So, one of the interesting things I saw online was actually a post from Anna Bright saying she wonders how the APP level compares to PPA Challenger level. What's your perspective on that?
Um, I mean, to be honest, I think APP is a little stronger right now, especially like top heavy wise. But um, I could see the PPA challengers catching up quickly to APP as more PPA players start playing them if they do start playing them.
Yeah, because I think there's certain players that have to play an event, and so I would say, the to me it feels like Will Howells and Jack Monroe are a next step up. But I feel like, I mean, after that, there are good teams, certainly, like Kyle Kazuda and Casey Diamond made a really, really nice run. But I feel like after the Jack Monroe and Will Howell's team, there's no like clear stud team after that, right? You've got Eric Lang and Purple Jesus, who's a great team. You got a bunch of other like very, very good teams. But I feel like Scarpa Dow could battle there.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, Greg and I, when we used to play APPs, we wouldn't medal every single time, but we were always top 5 or 6 at the APPs. So, I mean, I felt like we were always in the mix. And yeah, I mean, you see like some new finalists a lot of the weeks at the APPs. I mean, of course, Jack and Will are winning all of them, but it's got, I think APPs have pretty good parity right now with
Hmm.
who's kind of coming out on, or coming into championship Sundays at least.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also, the time where you and the time where you and Greg Dow were playing APP, there wasn't deeper APP field as well, right? There was Dylan Frazier, Andre Dascu, Rob Nunnery, myself, J Dub, and several more. And then when the whole Tour Wars thing happened, a lot of those players left, and now we're looking at sort of the new crop of APP players. And APP also announced recently their breakthrough series, which is essentially geared to be the PPA Challenger, their own version of sort of the PPA Challenger. So I'm curious what you think. Like, no contracts, some new player is coming up through the ranks. Let's say I'm a up and coming college tennis player who just finished. What would be your perspective on like the way to go pro? Do you start with APP tournaments, APP Breakthrough, PPA Challenger Series? Where do the what's the path now? Do you think?
That's a good question. I mean, if I were a new player coming in, I would find the PPA Challenger Series pretty enticing because, I mean, for one, you get a lot of good matches, but also I think APP changed their structure to where, if you have no points, you have to go through a pre-qualifying and then a qualifying, and it's kind of you may or may not make main draws. And also too, like with APPs, I think there's only like 12 events this year. So I don't know, if I was looking at it from a perspective of someone trying to get match experience in a lot of tournaments. I mean, one tournament a month, like that might not be enough. So I mean, I'd probably strongly look at the Challenger series that the PPA is doing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
So what type of prize money did you win at the PPA Challenger?
I have no idea, man. Like honestly, the only reason I played it was to get the match reps heading into Atlanta because we haven't played a tournament or I haven't played a tournament. You've been playing MLP, but I haven't played a tournament since North Carolina PPA over a month ago. And as you know, like it's tough to replicate match nerves and and the mental stuff that goes along with that. So I just thought it was a good opportunity to get some match reps, be a little battle tested heading into Atlanta. It's a pretty big tournament. So
Yeah. So winning this doesn't count for winning. This isn't relevant for you because you're already a PPA gold card member and whatnot. But if you are to win a PPA Challenger event, I believe you get, a PPA contract. You get which you can get into main draws and whatnot, which is obviously huge for visibility perspective for a lot of these players. Do you plan on playing any other PPA Challenger events over the summer while MLP is going on, or what's your plan? You gonna do any more of these?
I don't know. Probably not, to be honest, just because the MLP season is gonna be pretty busy for me, and also I have another kid on the way, so like I don't.
Oh, dude, congratulations,
Thanks. Yeah. So
Daddy
like,
Scarpa.
yes. Yeah. So like sort of depending on all that. I mean, I don't want to say I won't play another one for sure, but we'll have to see how it all shakes out.
Gotcha. Sweet. So what's you've got Atlanta this week, and then what else is next for you?
MLP Austin, and then I gotta look at the MLP schedule again. But I think I want to say we play the next few MLPs, and then I guess the next PPA is Orange County. Is that right?
Yep, in June.
Yeah. So as far as I know, those are the next events I'm playing in.
Yeah, well, we've had a debate recently with Will Howells about Triple Crowns, and winning a Triple Crown, regardless of where or when or who you're playing, is never easy. So, congrats on the PPA Challenger Triple Crown, and appreciate you coming on the podcast, Scarp. We'll see you over here in Atlanta.
All right, thanks, Zane.
All right, so this week we've got the Atlanta Open coming up, and we'll go briefly through some of the interesting things to take a look at. But Annalie Waters is debuting with Anna Bright. With that new partnership, they are actually the number 2 seed. Rachel Rohrbacher and Catherine Parento are in the number 1 spot, surprisingly. And we also have the debut of the Lifetime Ball, which is getting absolutely like rave reviews so far. I love the Lifetime Ball. It plays true. It plays quickly at slow swing speeds. So if you get the Lifetime Ball, it feels like it's a little bit spongier to an extent, and so when you're dinking, it feels faster. It feels higher bouncing, but from the baseline, it really seems to like compress a bit more, almost like a super hot and used Vulcan in warm temperature, and it doesn't play super fast from the baseline. So I think it's a good combination, and I think the biggest thing is it bounces true. I think it bounces quite well. You can take the ball on the rise because you know where to expect the ball to bounce. So interesting things to look out for. Georgia Johnson is paired up with Jade Kawamoto, and they're at the 4 spot. Viv David and Etta T. Somebody's got to teach me how to say her last name again. But they're partnered up for the very first time. Ben and Gabe have won 2 in a row, and they're looking for number 3. Hayden and Federico are actually the number 1 seed, and Andre and Christian are the 3 seed, followed by Deckel and Dylan and J-Dub and CJ. I feel like with these pairings, this is a super, super even playing field, and I feel like these are probably the pairings that we're going to see for PPA for the rest of the year. Gabe and Ben, Fed and Hayden, Andre and Christian, J-Dub and CJ, and Dylan and Deckel. Those combos I feel like all complement one another, and I feel like any of those teams could win this. I think that Dylan and Deckel are probably the least likely. They're slightly second tier to those other 4. But if I'm power ranking these teams, I'm going Andre and Christian number 1, Ben and Gabe number 2, Hayden. I'm going to go J-Dub and CJ number 3, Hayden and Fed number 4, and then Dylan and Deckel as number 5 there. But I like those combos. That's going to make for an interesting weekend. We last week also had some additional updates to the Ben and Collin tanking / pulling out situation. MLP announced their statement, which was criticized heavily online. That's already been beat to death a certain extent. But something interesting was Connor Pardo actually got on with Alex from the Dink, who wrote an article, and I thought that there were some very, very interesting quotes from Connor on this. So a couple different quotes were, some people might say it's preferential treatment for Ben, but I'd like to think that we would handle the situation the same for everybody. I hope that's true. It just feels like there has been a pattern of certain players getting preferential treatment, or at least that's what it seems to the outside people looking in. And people don't know the inside scoop on just about everything. Ben and Collin also have their actions nitpicked so much more. So something that they do is going to be noticed. Something that some of the other players do, if they do the same thing, might not. So while it might look like preferential treatment, and it may be preferential treatment, I can't necessarily say. I think what his statement is that we're going to try and handle the situation the same for everybody. That's obviously where we should end up. He said Ben felt uncomfortable. He was unable to locate the ball. He wasn't able to perform at the best of his ability. And in that moment, you want to make sure that you can give him the benefit of the doubt. We were very accommodating to them to pull out of the event. Whether we should have done that or not, that's something that we're going to learn from at the league level. The thing that we did that was wrong was we allowed Collin to pull out. We allowed it. Let's be clear. Yeah, I mean, I can't. That feels like something that's not being discussed enough, right? Like, they allowed Collin to pull out. Why? So he at least acknowledged that, which I mean was clear, and he ended with, if maximum effort isn't given, we're going to have the right to fine, suspend, and even terminate contracts, which I think makes complete sense. Like, if you're not going to give the best effort out there, why are we paying you? Which, I mean, kind of goes back to the Ben and Collin situation to begin with. MLP's punishment of them was that they forfeited their pay for the matches that they didn't play or didn't show up to. It's wild to me that their pay wasn't forfeited for the match that was tanked. That feels like a miss there. But honestly, people make mistakes all the time. For me, I feel like if we do actually adjust and make something more permanent and something that we follow going forward, this will all be irrelevant down the road. But I do hope that we make changes and hold players accountable. The UPA sent out a player update to everybody, myself included, which basically said we owe it to the fans, broadcasters, and partners, and most importantly ourselves, to give 100% effort every time we play on the court. And instances of lack of effort in both PPA and MLP events have occurred and are not isolated incidents. We're nipping this in the bud now so that it does not become a trend or a theme. There will be zero tolerance for this behavior. Each case brought forward of suspected lack of effort will be evaluated by Chris Patrick, Connor Pardo, and Samin Odwani. Repercussions for determined lack of effort can include fines, suspensions, and termination of contract. We're all in this together, and we want the best product for our players, fans, sponsors, and media partners. This all starts with the players, and we appreciate the leadership qualities you bring to the court and community. If there's something that we can do better as a tour or league, we encourage you to work directly with us to help find solutions rather than taking issues to social media. We've made tremendous progress over the past years, and with your continued partnership, we keep moving forward and improve together. In and of itself, that statement I think, makes a tremendous amount of sense. I support it. I wish it would have been applied to this instance, but again, if we include these things going forward, I'm all good with it. All right, so as promised, I'm going to do a bunch of the Q&A that you guys have asked me on Twitter and on Instagram. But first, I got to shout out the Dill Dinkers. I am actually in a Dill Dinkers office right now. I'm playing some pickleball with Travis Roscoe and Donald Young in a couple of minutes. And I needed a place to do the podcast, and they hooked me up in the office. They even had a podcast studio and everything. So big shout out to Dill Dinkers Atlanta for letting me come podcast out of their office. Getting into some of the questions, Nico the Lefty always has some good questions. He asks, when you played kickball in elementary school, when would you get picked for a team? I'm guessing 7th overall. Dude, I had a good leg. I could catch, I could run. Believe it or not, I was actually athletic in middle school. So I was usually like a top 3 pick. Come on, bro. Victor Bellum asks, do pros adjust their grip based on whether they're at the kitchen, transition zone, or baseline? Definitely. From the baseline and serving, I'm using a semi-Western grip for forehands. Then from the kitchen, I'm pretty much continental. There are nuanced cases where you might switch it around at the kitchen as well, whether it's for a flick, a tomahawk, or certain counters. But for the most part, you don't have quite as much time to change the grip while you're up at the kitchen. Tailgate Ted asks, is it true that Ben travels with a lux meter because Collin is afraid of the dark? No comment. Frank, the CEO of Pickleball, asks, if Annalie Waters and Ben lose, does she drop him? That's an interesting question. They're not losing much, and I don't know. I don't think there's a player that's going to be more consistent with Annalie on the men's side than Ben. So I think, Anna Bright, I feel like, was a relatively clear, better option for Annalie. If not Ben, then who is it on the men's side? Downtown Logan Brown asks, will APP survive, and where would Jack and Will place if they were thrown in the weekly PPA draw? I think APP will survive, but like what their model is and what their deal is in question, right? In what form do they survive, which I don't necessarily know. I think that Jack and Will are a quarterfinal consistent team depending on draw. How can PPA MLP attract younger people to attend tournaments? I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think that they need to embrace a rowdy atmosphere that we have at Major League Pickleball. Mississippi Rob asks, what's the sponsorship money and tournament winnings like for top 5, 20, and 50 players? That's all over the place. You got people making multiple millions. You got people who are just scraping by and teaching. Impossible question to really answer, but I'd say there's probably a good 75 to 100 players that can make a good living playing pickleball. JLA, or Original Lady Met on X, asks, does the Nasty Nelson have a place in pro sports? It's now legal, but so Bush League, just my humble opinion. I think so. The rules are the rules, baby. If Will Howells was on the PPA full-time, would he be a top 10 men's doubles player? That's from Zach on X. I think 100%. I've got Will at like 8 or 9 in my power rankings, and that's only because we don't see him at a huge sample size playing against PPA players. Without a doubt, a top 10 player. How will the unprofessionalism of the Johns brothers affect relationships with other pros on the tour? I could see, that's from Michael Schur on X. I could see other people obviously getting irritated. I don't think it's going to affect my relationship with them. I've said what I think, and I've had cordial exchanges with them when I've criticized them. And, I don't say anything that I wouldn't say directly to somebody. I think other players might hold some resentment for them, but yeah, we'll see. Lion Pickleball asks, where is Thomas? Thomas has bigger and better things to do. Don't you love me? What's going on? Jared Acosta asks, why is Pablo Tellez in Challenger and not Premier? It's just because he got traded at some point and he's in Challenger jail, unfortunately. K. Dot asks, who has the biggest D on tour? I think Riley Newman has the best D on tour, is how I'm going to choose to interpret that question. Bull132 asks, how good is Armaan Bhatia? He is a baller. He just beat Chris Hayworth at the APP in singles, and he's very good in all divisions. I think he's going to be a regular medal stand player on the APP by the end of the year. Slam Jam, the podcast, asks, what's the most memorable live sporting event which you got to witness? Let's see. MLP midseason tournament last year where we won, witnessed it firsthand. Who would you rather play in singles, 100 5-0s or 100 Johnson? That's from In the Game 17. I honestly feel like after like 3 or 4 5-0s, it doesn't matter how many more you add. So I would rather play. I have a better shot of beating 105-0s than I do Hunter Johnson, in my opinion. In the Game 17 asks, if the fives had a movie made about them, which actor would play each of you? I would love Aziz Ansari. I'll take that one. I feel like Anna Lee is like I feel like she's like the actress from what's that chess game? Just somebody who doesn't take some crap. And then Will, I don't know about Will and Megan. I don't know. That's a good question. I got to think about that one some more. Do you think the PPA and MLP will coexist long term? I do. I think they scratch very different itches, and I think they're complementary to one another. And I think we're seeing that from MLP success so far this year. Obviously, there's been some blunders, but I think overall, good success there together. Jeff Elwood asks, how do you see your involvement in pickleball after pro playing days? I'm going to keep podcasting, keep putting out content, and I'd like to travel internationally, go to different places, and continue to sort of teach the game. Kenji Hood asks, do you think the PPA will look the same when the original 3-year deals expire? I don't. I think you're going to see a lot of player turnover at the end of 2026 when our contracts are up, and I think that restructuring towards a more prize money based versus salary based is going to be big. I can't pronounce this username. Hrinyapt asks, do you think junior PPA is worth it? 100%. I think there's some sick clips coming out of junior PPA tour. Slugger out, is Chris going to win the bread and butter nerdy tournament? No, Chris can't win anything. Chris Olsen, I'm assuming we're talking about. Trinidad Logan asks, who's going to be the next number one player and number one face of pickleball? Ooh, of the current crop, that's hard to say. I think that Christian is playing really, really good ball right now and hasn't reached his ceiling. So if there's somebody of the current crew that's going to take over, I think that Christian is probably the front runner in that regard. All right, so Zaf commented on YouTube, question for Zane. I know Jack Monroe teases you, but I've always wondered why, with your exceptional skill set, you don't win more doubles, both gender and mixed. I've suspected it's because you're not patient enough at setting up your points and play too much off the cuff, but that's just an amateur guess. Do you train with a coach? Honestly, the reason I don't win more is because everybody else is getting so damn good. I'm trying my best, of course, and trying to continually improve and just become the best pickleball player that I can. I'm still getting better at pickleball. Everybody else is getting better as well. I'm still better than Jack Monroe, though, so at least we have that. But lots of very, very good questions. If we didn't get to yours, please submit again next week. I'll try my best to keep answering all of these and enjoying it. So thanks for everybody who submitted questions for this week. All right, well, welcome back to the podcast, Jim Kloss. If you don't know Jim Kloss and pickleball, you are living under a rock. And so I texted a few of my lawyer friends to figure out what is going on with these different lawsuits in pickleball, particularly JOOLA versus USAP, USAP versus JOOLA, and the Proton involuntary bankruptcy. This is above my pay grade, so I figured I would chat with somebody who has a legal background like Jim. So Jim, would you mind just briefly mentioning like your legal background?
Sure. Went to Arizona State, graduated in 85, spent a little over 30 years in the legal biz, worked for a very large national law firm, basically doing generally working for insurance companies and big corporations, defending lawsuits against them, whether I might defend doctors, construction site accidents, big trucking accidents, things like that, class action lawsuits.
Yeah, gotcha. You think of getting back into the game and as a pickleball specific lawyer because I feel like there's good work for you.
I keep my license active just because that enables me to give legal advice and not run afoul of the state bar. But mostly I just restrict it to helping friends. And I've got pickleball pros who'll ask me to look at their contract and tell them what it means, or a proposed sponsor contract interpret for them. I'm always happy to do that. But I retired happily after making my good lawyer money. So I just mainly use it to help friends.
Sure, I gotcha. So tell me about Proton. A couple of let's see, it was probably a little bit over a month ago. I saw some random thing on X that's saying that Proton was thrown into an involuntary bankruptcy proceeding. And so take us through, I think we talked about it very, very briefly, but I'm curious what your perspective is on this case.
Well, what's always interesting from a lawyer's perspective is when a legal issue comes up in a context, and it could be pickleball, it could just be life. Some interesting lawsuit will make the news and people will talk about it. And so, what's always interesting from a lawyer's perspective is people who are non-lawyers kind of see things one way, and
They see bankruptcy and they're like,
yeah,
"Oh
and
no."
they misunderstand what's really going on. It's no insult to them. Just like if some medical issue comes up, you and I might have some opinion, but it's pretty uninformed. I mean, the same thing comes up with the legal issues. So you hear Proton, you hear bankruptcy. Everybody has this vague general knowledge of what a bankruptcy is and thinks, oh my God, they're going out of business. An involuntary bankruptcy is what occurred here. And I'll just take a moment and explain what the key difference is. The bankruptcy that you and I and everybody hears about is a person or a corporation who's got debts that exceed their assets, and they voluntarily file a bankruptcy petition to get temporary respite from the creditors. Give me some time. Let me organize my finances. Maybe I'll pay you off 75 cents on the dollar, get my act together and keep going. Or you might, if it's a corporation, might dissolve and pay off the creditors. And
Right. So there's
involuntary,
there's the liquidation and then the reorganizations
right,
bankruptcy, right? So those are the voluntary, whatever. That's like 9 and 13 or something like that, right?
well, yeah, I wasn't a bankruptcy specialist. So you might get me on the different
Yeah,
chapters. I don't
okay.
want to say one, and then
I was
Facebook will
supposed to
blow up
know
and
this
say I got it
stuff.
wrong.
I was supposed to know this stuff for my CPA license, which I do not keep up to date. But yeah, there's basically like the reorganization and then the liquidation, but then the involuntary bankruptcy is essentially where the creditors, at least 3 of them with I think $150,000 worth of cumulative claims, can say they're not paying me. We are going to try and force them into a bankruptcy proceeding. And that's what happened here with Proton, correct?
Yeah, it's very rarely used because
Right.
typically if you're owed money, your response is, ask to be paid, demand to be paid, threaten to sue if you're not paid, and then if you have to, you sue. So it's very unusual to use the involuntary bankruptcy, but you're right, you have to have at least the 3 creditors owed a certain amount of money. That meets the jurisdictional minimum. And so it's kind of like a class action by creditors, because it's a group of you going and saying, we've made every reasonable effort to get paid, have not been paid, and we're afraid that this company doesn't have the money to pay us off. So because you wouldn't file an involuntary bankruptcy against Apple or IBM.
Right.
You file against a company that you at least claim is not going to have the financial wherewithal to pay everybody else off.
So if I was owed money by Apple, I would simply sue them, correct? I wouldn't try to file an involuntary bankruptcy.
Unless you're crazy, which is
Fair.
which is where a lot of involuntary bankruptcies come from. It's typically, and it was in this case, it's typically somebody with an axe to grind, some sort of disgruntled person. It's because it's a very nasty thing to do.
Right. So do you have any context on that? So it's from what I understand, typically some disgruntled ex creditors, but aren't there pretty big penalties for bringing an involuntary bankruptcy case if you're incorrect?
Yes, and not just an involved, but any type of legal proceeding. There are procedures for saying that this is not a reasonable lawsuit, a frivolous lawsuit. It's not as easy as a lot of people think to succeed on a claim that a lawsuit is frivolous, but in involuntary bankruptcy, is one of those. The background on this one is you and I and everybody in the pickleball world thinks of Proton as a paddle company. Proton was originally a manufacturer of softball bats, and that's where Proton comes from. It switched over to adding pickleball after that. The the person who filed this was originally a son of an investor, and he was a part-time employee for some time, to my understanding, on the softball side, and didn't work out, was let go. And, I'll say, as alleged by Proton, they use a disgruntled employee, a bad employee, and that's where the incentive comes from. And that he went and, according to Proton, sort of made up some other creditors, got some buddies to make frivolous claims about being owed money, and therefore is able to go after it by way of the involuntary bankruptcy. When it was first filed, I posted something on Facebook where I said my expectation is that Proton would respond by not only asking the court to dismiss the involuntary bankruptcy, but also to sanction the plaintiff who filed it without a lawyer. It's a handwritten document asking
Right.
the court to sanction him for filing a frivolous and baseless claim. And that is indeed what Proton did. Proton ultimately, if you look at the court file, the case has been dismissed and it was done under seal. I did talk to the Proton folks, and what they said is that there were a lot of nasty allegations made by the plaintiff that Proton didn't want to become public, baseless even though they were, and so therefore they asked the judge to put it under seal, which is a way to make a court filing private. So we're not able to look at the individual documents and see what was said, but we can look at it and see that the case was dismissed. My understanding is that Proton is still chasing the fellow for things like attorney's fees and defamation and things like that. But
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
gone away, and it's not going to affect
So the
Proton's
case, the
business.
case is the case is dismissed. The case is sealed so that we can't see any of that stuff. Would your expectation be that there's some sort of settlement on that was made behind the scenes, or is that some form of public knowledge? This is where my knowledge ends.
No, I think it's from what I can tell from the court file, it's just what Proton said, is that the guy was again, it's pretty rare to see, but it's handwritten documents,
Right.
and just garbage stuff being filed, and Proton just asked the court to keep it private rather than even if stuff isn't true, who wants that to get out in public, and it gets
So
misrepresented.
if that's the case, the judge likely must have agreed that this was some form of just clearly like a hit job against
Yeah.
Proton
Yes.
if they've actually dismissed the case and sealed the case.
Yes, correct.
Okay,
It didn't last
interesting.
very long at all. I think the case was only alive for about 2 months or so. So
Yeah.
they took quick action to get rid of it and, move on. My understanding is
Gotcha.
Proton tells me that they're now the number one selling paddle on Pickleball Central. So up and away.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
well, we've got some lawsuits that probably aren't going to be dismissed as quickly as this. We've got
That is for sure.
JOOLA filed their suit against USAP, 6 months ago or something? And then just recently we had the announcement that USAP is now, is this the correct term, countersuing
Claiming,
JOOLA?
yes.
Counterclaiming JOOLA. So can you take us through really briefly the first JOOLA claim, and then what is USAP doing by counterclaiming JOOLA?
Yeah, this is the super interesting one to me of the different ones that are out there. I mean, this is right up my alley of stuff that I would have done, either representing YOLA or representing USAP, a corporate lawsuit. So to me, it's really interesting. So the basic dispute is YOLA comes out with the Gen 3 paddle. Pursuant to typical practice, they create prototypes. They send the prototypes to USAP for approval. They are, and these are undisputed facts agreed to by both YOLA and USAP. And I'll be careful to state what is undisputed and what is
Sure.
disputed, because that really matters. So undisputed, they send in prototype paddles. Undisputed that the prototype paddles are approved. As you know, the Gen 3 creates an uproar in the pickleball community. The paddle's too hot, the paddle's too good, this paddle should be banned. Subsequent to the public uproar, YOLA, it's a little unclear exactly whether it's YOLA saying that the prototypes are have differences to the as marketed paddles, whether USAP discovers it, whether people independently discover it. But in any event, it does come out that the as marketed paddles have differences from the prototype paddles. That's not disputed either.
Okay. Well, that
Um,
was. Does that get back to? Does that get back to the administrative error that Yola posted about during this entire deal? So they did admit that there was some sort of error happening, and that
yes.
it was that the approved version was different than what was in the market.
Correct. And so again, that is undisputed. Um, so USAP then delists the paddle. They do not follow the procedures outlined by USAP under their own published equipment standards. That again is undisputed. The equipment standards specifically state that to delist a paddle, you must post the notice on their website and wait 18 months to delist it. They do
Even if
not.
there's some sort of error from the paddle manufacturer.
Well, that again gets into the disputed side. So I'm being careful to say the undisputed part first. It is
Sure. Okay.
undisputed that there is that equipment standard. The dispute is whether there's a legal dispute over whether that standard applies or not for exactly the reason you're saying. But it's undisputed that there is the delisting standard with 18 months and that they do not follow it. And you can understand the reason for having the 18-month requirement is
Right.
if you're going to change your hotness standard, say for
It's more
example,
of the
give me 18
sunsetting,
months,
right?
give me 18 months to market it. Let me get my inventory out. Let me make my money. And there isn't a big financial impact to the manufacturer.
I
Delisting
believe
immediately.
that's what's happening with the gearbox, with some of the power gearboxes, correct? They're basically they've changed the rules and they're given 18 months to get rid of their inventory. So that's the case with the power gearboxes from last year, as I understand.
USAP has reasons for what they did. Whether those are legitimate legal reasons is what the dispute is about. But in any event, Yola then sues USAP for delisting the paddle and failing to follow the 18-month rule.
Hmm.
USAP first responded by asking the court to dismiss the lawsuit outright. And as I posted on Facebook, I wouldn't say it's inappropriate that they did that, but that motion that they filed had virtually no chance of success. That type of early motion dismiss is where you say to the court, under no factual circumstance can my opponent win. Even if every single thing they say in the complaint is true, they still won't win,
Hmm.
which is an almost impossible motion to win. And in my 30 years, I probably saw that type of motion filed. Well, saw it filed hundreds of times. I maybe saw it succeed once. It's usually filed as a delay tactic, or people will accuse lawyers of trying to run up their billable hours by doing it, just trying to make extra money. But in any event, it was no great prediction, but as I correctly predicted, it was dismissed by the court. The motion was denied, and then the court required USAP to file a substantive response to Yola's complaint. That substantive response was both a denial of Yola's allegations and also the addition of the counterclaim, suing back USAP, claiming that Yola had committed fraud and that
Wow.
USAP was entitled to damages for that fraud, and asking for.
What do the damages relate to? Just the damages to USAP's reputation? Like, I mean, this is where people seem to throw around enormous numbers, right? Yola's throwing around 200 million. What is USAP claiming these damages are for and for how much?
Well, two different things on that is when you hear somebody say they're suing for 200 million or some other number, almost invariably that number is meaningless and just done for media purposes.
Sure.
When you file a lawsuit, you do not, except in certain cases, sue for a certain amount of money. You only do that when it's like a contract.
Sure.
Um, I promised to sell you a car for $50,000. I deliver the car. You fail to pay me the $50,000. I sue you for $50,000. I may
Right.
have additional claims for interest or attorney's fees or something, but basically I'm suing you for the $50,000 under the contract. When it's this type of claim, a claim for what we call tort damages, There's no specified amount. It'll be up to if it goes that far, up to a jury one day to say what the damages are based upon the evidence. So when JOOLA says we're suing for 200 million, it's an entirely made up number that has no legal force and effect. It doesn't limit the claim. It doesn't mean if they win, they'll get 200 million. They might get more, they might get less. It's really done as a media thing. So I can say I'm after you for all this money. Same thing with USAP claiming back. Now, USAP does have some statutory claims that talk about regurgitation of fraudulently made profits and things like that can have a some certain ultimately, but it will all depend on proof down the road. But certainly, it's fair to say that there are millions and potentially tens of millions of dollars or even more at issue.
Interesting. So it took the 6 months for the next step to become public in the counterclaim? Because it feels like we've been waiting for forever without hearing anything about USAP versus JOOLA or JOOLA versus USAP, which is that just is that what we're going to expect? Just a very long drawn out case here?
Welcome to the world of lawsuits.
Yeah, no, for real. So that was the
Yes.
next, we haven't missed anything if we haven't heard anything in between.
No, and I get texts from friends or people who contact me through Facebook and say, "Hey, give me an update. What's going on?" I'm like, you might not hear anything for 6 months, or what you do hear doesn't really mean anything. Everything that's happened up to now is pretty much legally meaningless. We haven't gotten to the heart of this, and it could be quite some time before we get to it. And if it goes all the way to a trial, you could be talking about a trial. I mean, it depends on the court and how busy they are, what other cases they have, but you're probably talking about certainly 2027 before you'd have a trial at least. So it could go on for a long time. And one of the problems with this case, as I posted as soon as it was filed, is it's a case where the tail is going to wag the dog at some point, and we may have already reached that. And what I mean by that is both sides are suing the other side for, among other things, attorney's fees. And what will happen is, as they run up attorney's fees, then both sides actually move further apart for a settlement, because not only do I have my original damages and interest on those damages, but now I got attorney's fees. And the other side is doing the same thing. So they're actually, every single day, they are literally moving further apart in their
Sure.
expectations.
So you mentioned a second ago that we're not going to get to the heart of the issue for a while here. What do you think is the heart of the issue?
Well, I think there are, I outlined 5 key points that I think people should take away from the case at this point. First is the issue of whether JOOLA committed what USAP has termed a bait and switch. USAP's basic argument is JOOLA submitted these prototypes knowing that they were not going to be marketed that way, that they then, as soon as they got approval, did the bait and switch, substituted in the more powerful, the paddles with extra foam, I think is the key argument, and then marketed the more powerful paddles. And again, USAP has alleged they did that knowingly, fraudulently, intentionally, did a bait and switch. The next point, I think, is it's uncontested again that there are differences between the prototypes and the as marketed paddles. And a lot of people have speculated, well, case is over then, right? USAP wins. No, it doesn't. Are they relevant? Are those differences relevant? And YOLA's argument is they're not relevant differences. Suppose the prototypes were painted green and the marketed paddles are painted black. Who cares? It's an irrelevant difference. Suppose they submitted them with a grip of 4 and the marketed ones are 4 1/4. Irrelevant. Who cares? So the key point is are the marketed paddles different in a relative and important way, a way that would have failed the USAP testing that was in place at the time, not testing 6 months later, not a different standard, but the standard done at the time of the prototype paddles. And that's where we get into the technicalities of the edging of the foam and so on, and how powerful they are. I'd be interested if anybody's done testing on that prototype versus as marketed paddle.
Are they going to call experts in for something like that?
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
who's going to be an expert? Is that going to be like a Chris Olsen? Like,
Sure.
yeah, interesting. Wow.
Absolutely.
Um,
Maybe you'll get called.
no, no. If this podcast shows anything, I'm not an expert on this subject.
But
Yeah,
that I
we'll
think
leave that to the John Q's and the Chris Olsens of the world.
no, but they're going to get into all the technicalities of tearing apart the paddle and was it an inch of foam? Was it an inch and a quarter of foam? Was it 2 inches of foam? Does it matter whether it's an inch of foam versus an inch and a quarter? What is the difference? What is the relevance of the difference? So I think that's a really important point. I think the third point is we know USAP changed their position. They approved the paddle. Then there was the public outcry. Other manufacturers complained. I think certain pros complained. A lot of the public complained. There was pressure on USAP. Then USAP makes the decision to delist the paddle. Did they delist it because of the pressure? Or did they and then use the differences in the paddles as an excuse after the fact? That's would be YOLA's position. YOLA's position is that it was an improper delisting due to public and other manufacturer pressure. We'll have to wait and see. The next issue, I think, is the 18th month rule that we talked about. USAP's YOLA's position is very simple. The 18-month rule is the 18-month rule. You didn't follow it.
Mm-hmm.
And the rule actually does talk about changes to the paddle during that time. So simply because the paddle undergoes some changes does not mean the 18-month rule doesn't apply per USAP's own guidelines.
Interesting.
USAP, though, takes the position that the 18-month rule does not contemplate a fraudulent change in the paddle.
Right.
That
That'll be
if
an
you
interesting
fraudulently change
nuance, right? Yeah, because one would think, if somebody submitted something that was different, this rule wouldn't apply. None of the rules would apply. I mean, that's what I would think, right? As somebody who's from the outside looking in and not a lawyer.
lawyers sometimes make arguments that are hyper technical that the average person would just go, "What?" Here's a hyper technical example. If USAP wanted the 18-month rule to apply to paddles with a significant change from prototype to marketing, why didn't they just say that in the rule? So if I was YOLA's lawyer, my first argument is obviously that we did not have a relevant, significant change between prototype and marketed paddle. That's the first argument. My fallback argument is, hey, court, if you do think it is a significant change, so what? The 18-month rule still applies. And when USAP says, well, wait a minute, it was this substantial change, yeah, I just say, so what? Your rule is your rule. All I'm doing is following your rule. You
Right.
wrote the darn thing.
How
If
am I
you
supposed to
wanted
know?
it to say, what you're saying it says, you should have wrote it that way. So
Fair.
I don't think that will win, but in my career, I had plenty of times where I made 5 arguments and I thought the first argument was the winner. And I thought 5, I probably shouldn't even throw in. What the heck? I'll throw 5 in just in case. And I've won on number 5. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
It
Sure.
happens. So
Okay.
that I think is the fourth issue. The fifth issue is the one you've been alluding to, which is what we call the discovery process, which is it should be the next thing coming up. The court should be setting forth some sort of scheduling order that governs the conduct of the case going forward, gives the parties an opportunity to conduct what we call discovery, which is fact finding. And you fact find by way of what we call interrogatories, written questions to the other party, requests for production of documents. I send the other side a list of documents that I want them to produce, depositions, witness statements taken under oath. This is the huge thing in the case.
Right.
This is the guts of the case if it goes forward, is what do the internal documents for both YOLA and USAP say? And I guarantee you there's juicy stuff in there
Yeah,
on
there
both
has to
sides.
be. There
There's
certainly has to
really
be.
juicy stuff.
Will that stuff become public?
It will depend somewhat on the parties and somewhat on the court. Typically, things are publicly available, or the parties have the ability to make them publicly available. Like if I'm representing somebody and I get documents, unless there's a court order to the contrary, I'm free to talk about those documents. I could give a press conference saying, if I was YOLA's attorney and I got the internal emails from USAP, and there's an internal email that says, man, we need to delist this paddle, let's come up with an excuse to do it. I can hold a press conference and say, we found the smoking gun. Now, sometimes one party or the other will ask the court for what we call a protective order, sort of like what we talked about the Proton case, where we ask for documents to be kept under seal and away from the public. So that is possible.
Gotcha. Well, it seems to me like all of this is going to hurt USAP regardless of the outcome more than it's going to hurt YOLA. I think YOLA seems to know what they're doing, and I think that they can withstand a multi-million-dollar lawsuit even if they're found to be fraudulent. And I think that this feels like more of a, at least from the seat that I sit in, this feels like a more of a shit talking match with some legal repercussions, of course, but like it feels like the main deal was obviously we're pissed and about the whole process and we want to throw shit at each other on this. Who do you think does this? Who does this hurt more?
Well, I think they're both at risk to me. And as I first posted when the lawsuit started, or even before there was talk of a formal lawsuit, but we sort of saw it coming, I said, this is the perfect case to settle early. That if I was the lawyer for YOLA or I was the lawyer for USAP, I would be advising immediate settlement talks. And once the lawsuit was filed, if I was USAP's lawyer, I would have again asked the court to delay the proceedings. Let us talk. Let's see if we can work it out. Don't be filing motions to dismiss. That motion to dismiss probably cost USAP $10,000, $20,000 or something in legal fees and all the attendant processes that are going on at the same time. You're spending a lot of money. As I mentioned, you're moving apart. And the lawyers should be giving a budget to their client. Again, on both sides. This is not directed at one versus the other. This is both sides. You could be talking about $1 million in attorney's fees, experts, or even more than that, depending on how much is out there and how many documents there are and how much time you have to go through reviewing it. So as each side incurs $1 million, look at how far apart they are, as opposed to starting now when you haven't incurred all that. The parties who really are benefiting from a lawsuit like this that goes on are the lawyers and the experts. They're getting paid win or lose. So a good lawyer is going to look at their client and say, you've got two choices. You can try to settle this case, which is some sort of 50-50 case. Anybody who looks at this thing and says it's 80-20 or 20-80 is not giving good advice to their client. They should be telling their client, you're in a 50-50 battle. You might be 60-40, you might be 40-60. Let me look at the documents. If there's some smoking gun, maybe that moves it. But at this point, the two lawyers only know at best the smoking guns that hurt them. If I'm USAP's lawyer, the only email I know about is my own clients that may hurt me. If I'm YOLA's lawyer, the only internal documents I know about are mine that may hurt me. So I have no reason to say, hey, the other guy's got this document that's going to make our case. So I've got to be saying 50-50, 40-60, 60-40. You want to incur $1 million on a coin flip? That to me is not, in my opinion, that's not good business. That's not good lawyering. Now, to your point, who's more at risk? I don't know the exact finances of YOLA, but you and I know they're selling a hell of a lot of paddles. I think they got money coming in. I do know USAP's finances because it's public record and they have to file their documentation. I haven't looked at the latest one, but traditionally have had about $1 million to $1.5 million in the bank. That's gone on attorney's fees. I don't understand what their motivation is to fight. If I was their lawyer, I would have said right up front, let's just go to YOLA and just do the 18-month rule. That's an easy, simple settlement. It doesn't hurt USAP at all. There's no downside to them. They save $1 million in fees and costs. So what that YOLA gets to market the paddle another 18 months? You know,
interesting.
we can make arguments. We could make arguments. Yeah, that's not good for the game to have this too powerful paddle or something. Sure, but it is backstopped at 18 months. Why that didn't happen, I don't know. That's beyond me.
Interesting.
Not a good
Okay.
choice in my opinion.
Well, what is like how does somebody who wants to follow along with this case, like where do you get your information on this case? Like when discovery is done or when this timeline is presented, how do I stay up to date with it?
Well, we're dependent in large part upon the lawyers on both sides to disclose, like the things that'll come up through discovery. There's no way to track. You can track the court filings through Pacer. PACER is a system where anybody can log in and get the information on the court docket and see what documents are filed.
I
Like the
did that
motion
for the
to
Proton one.
there you go.
I've got
Yeah,
an
see,
account.
so you can see like motion dismiss filed by USAP, response to motion dismiss filed by YOLA. Ultimately, you see a court saying it's denied. But when it comes to discovery, most of that work, documentation, and so on is not part of the court file. So there's no way to track it through Pacer or otherwise. It would be up to the parties if they got something juicy and they want
To put it out
they
there.
want to litigate in public opinion, they can put it out there. The one thing I would guarantee is I guarantee there are important key documents on both sides. I guarantee that. The internal communications are going to be fascinating if we ever get to see those on both sides.
100%. I can't wait.
Yeah, and there
Would
could
love
be
to.
something that is a total smoking gun. I had that in my career quite a few times where you'd have a lawsuit and you'd eventually get the other side's documents. And it's like, holy cow, this is in there? Where the other people say the craziest things on internal emails, not thinking that it
Right.
has to be preserved. And one day it could be part of a lawsuit and the other side gets it. And you're just amazed. You're either devastated because it's a dumb email from your client internally, or you're really happy because it's an internal email from the other side and you get it. And you're like, this has just changed the case. They just admitted what we've always been arguing from the
Yeah.
get-go. So
Well, I hope we
who
get to
knows?
see some of that stuff too.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
yeah, that'd be juicy. Jim, thank you. Thank you very much for coming on, man. Appreciate it. And we'll definitely have you on again when there's more info or whenever you have some more spicy takes for us. So, Jim Kloss, everybody,
Good
much
seeing you.
appreciated.
You too. Then have a good day.